punishment being inflicted by the judiciary. Instead, I spoke with Lowell, and he wanted me to try and offer some words of inspiration or wisdom, and I don't know that I have any, but I will share with you some lessons that I have learned throughout the course and scope of my tenure in the probate court. First off, I have learned that you always need to tell the truth. And I can say that, my preacher's sitting over there, but you don't need to tell everything that you know. I had a lady that called my office one afternoon. It was about 7:30. I was working late. Picked up the phone, probate court, may I help you? Yeah, where do I call to get an arrest warrant on somebody? And I said, well, ma'am, you need to call the magistrate court. That number's 2015. I feel certain somebody be down there be glad to help you. Well, I hope so. I want an arrest warrant on my neighbor. Well, the office is closed now. You can't do anything about it, but if you'll call tomorrow morning after 8:30, I feel certain they'll be glad to help you. Well, I hope so, because my neighbor done stole the plant lamp I had on my marijuana patch, and I want him arrested for it. So don't tell everything that you know. I have learned, number 2, to expect the unexpected. One day shortly after I had entered the office, a telephone call came from a former client of mine who lived over in Carroll County. And I was speaking with her, and she said, I know you're not lawyering anymore, but I got a question for you. And I said, well, yes, ma'am, how can I help you? She said, I was just wondering what you do in the off chance that you find a dead body in your front yard. And I said, well, ma'am, I know I'm the probate judge, but normally I don't deal with them this fresh. You need to call the coroner or call the police or somebody. And she said, well, that's not exactly what I mean. And I said, well, ma'am, you better let me know exactly what it is that you're asking about. And she said, to make a long story short, her son-in-law was doing some landscaping work over on her property, and he dropped going through the front yard on a bobcat, fell slap through on top of somebody on an old brick vault. Oh. Apparently, the fellow who had constructed the house had built that thing right on top of a cemetery. Oh. They found the headstones over in the woods covered up with kudzu. And she said, what do I do about it? And I said, well, ma'am, how long ago was that house built? 34 years. Well, the statutes run on suing them civilly. Where's the builder at? Well, he's dead. Well, you can't prosecute him criminally. Well, what am I supposed to do about that? And I said, well, ma'am, if you want the bodies moved, the only thing I know that you need to do is just call the next of kin. If the next of kin will get in touch with the funeral home, I'm sure upon payment of a proper fee, the funeral home will remove the bodies and bury them elsewhere with the consent of the next of kin. She said, well, I done talked to a niece of that person, and those folks over there, they said they'd move them bodies if I'd pay them $500. And I said, well, ma'am, if you want the bodies moved that badly, you're going to have to pay them the $500. She said, that's what I thought, but here's the real question I want to ask you. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, can I charge them rent for the last 34 years? So expect the unexpected. The third lesson that I have learned from the probate court. Third lesson. Don't take yourself too seriously. When I was elected back in August 8th, 2000 to be exact, I had spent a considerable amount of time every day, every weekend, going along the campaign trail, meeting, seeing people. And at that point in time, I thought that first Saturday I was going to have a chance to sleep late and enjoy myself and rest. At 6 o'clock in the morning that Saturday, my phone rang. I reached over and picked it up. Hello? Yeah, you that feller what done got elected probate judge? Yes, ma'am. Well, I got a problem I want you to help me with. Well, yes, ma'am. How can I help you? There's a pothole in the road right in front of my house. that I need to get fixed, and I want something done about it now. And I said, well, ma'am, I would love to help you with that problem, but unfortunately, I don't go into office until January, and there's nothing I can do. We've got about 2 months before I even have any authority. Well, I understand you one of them folks who say you're going to do something to help people, and then after you get elected, you done forgot who put you there. And I said, no, ma'am, even after I go into office, that's not going to come under the auspices of the probate court. And she said, well, it's a good thing I didn't vote for you in the first place, and slammed the phone down. Well, 1 week later, 6 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang again. Picked up the phone. Hello? Are you that fella what got elected probate judge? Yes, ma'am. Well, I got another question, a problem. Maybe you can actually help me with this one. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, there's a median in the roadway across from my house done got growed up, and there's all matter of snakes and varmints and things like that living in it, and I want something done about it now. At that point, friends and neighbors, my Scotch-Irish stubbornness took over. I loaded a sling blade, a weed eater, an edger, and a push mower over. And I knew right where that lady lived. I went over to her house, and sure enough, there was a median across from her that had grown up. And it was probably infested with every bit of vermin known to mankind. Well, I went to work on it. In the heat of the noonday sun, I mowed it, I edged it, I used the weed eater. It looked neater than any putting green on the Masters golf course in Augusta, Georgia. It was the only edged out median in all of Haralson County. And I thought at that point in time, I am going to get a compliment from that lady. I am going to get a compliment from her. I raced home. I'd known she was looking at me as I was working there. I picked up the phone and I called her. She answered the phone. Hello? Said, ma'am, this is Eddie Hulsey from the probate court, newly elected probate judge. Yeah. And I said, well, ma'am, I was just calling to see if that problem with the median had been resolved to your satisfaction. She said, yeah, them county boys come and cut that grass, but I'll tell you one thing about it. Said, yes, ma'am. Somebody ought to put them county boys on a diet. I thought that old fatso would sweat himself into a heart attack before he got the grass mowed. So don't take yourself too seriously. And I want to close with one other incident that happened. You know, we all have terrible days. We all have days where we feel the world is just caving in upon us. And I'd had a day like this up at the office. Everything I set out to do was met with just problems, with discontent. People were complaining, people were fussing. And I thought about lunchtime, I'd had about all I could take. I was just going to throw in the towel, call it a day, and hopefully start again the next day. And there was a gentleman waiting to see me in my office. And I thought, oh dear, I wonder what he's going to talk about today. Carried him in my office. I said, how can I help you? And he looked at me and he said, sir, I just want to tell you, I think you're doing an outstanding job as our probate judge. We are so fortunate to have someone of your ability and your skill in this office. It's amazing, but I think your talents are lost here. We need you to run for the legislature. We need you under the Gold Dome. We need you over there. After you've been over there for a few years, we can run you for governor. And after you've been governor, you would probably be the greatest governor the state of Georgia ever saw or had. We could put you up in Washington, D.C., and you'd be the greatest senator to stride the halls of Congress since Herman Talmadge left. I just want to tell you, I'm behind you 110%. I'm always in your corner. Whatever you need, I'm there for you. And I thought, my goodness, I was thankful that he left when he did, friends, because if he'd stayed about 5 more minutes, I don't know that my head could have gone through the front doors of that courthouse. It had swelled so large by that point. Well, I was getting ready to leave, and my mood had increased, my step had lightened, and I was going by the security desk. And one of the security guards said, Judge? I said, yes, sir. Said, that fella that's walking through the parking lot right there, he been in your office to see you? Said, yes, sir, he has. Said, well, I'm sorry. If I'd known he was coming to see you, I would have told him you weren't in. Said, we have to send that fellow to the mental hospital about once every 6 months. He's a pathological liar, wouldn't know the truth if it met him in the street. And whatever he told you was just probably 180 degrees opposite of what he actually thought. What did he tell you? I said, nothing. And I left. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for letting me be with you. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you, please let me know.